Oh yeah, buddy. We're here. Yeah, I'm ready to talk.
Talk to me about the Afterlife.
Shout out Fruit Snacks, Welch's.
You've been gaming, are you a Twitcher?
Shit is a good word.
Creamers, welcome to Get Creamy, the Cream on Top segment where we dissect cool people and find out how they do what they do so cool. Today, we have Jack Ford on the show, a multi-talented singer, producer, multi-instrumentalist extraordinaire. And he just happens to be one of my best friends in the world and collaborators. And he also performed for us in Nashville for Cream on Top, and he happened to produce all of the acts for that show. It is my humble pleasure to introduce this segment of Get Creamy with Jack Ford. Now let's get creamy.
Jack Ford, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for being here.
So we're at your studio.
Yep. Back in Nash.
Tell me about where it all started. Tell me about the family band.
Yep. That's where it all started. Mom and Dad met in college. They were playing in a cover band. It was like a band that, you see on the bulletin board. Putting together a rock band. They both joined the same band. They shared a mic one day. Smelled each other's breath. Fell in love. Had some kids. They had my sister. They had me. They had my brother. And my sister played. She sang. Her and my mom just always singing. Dad leading singing in church. Not to mention the fact that the band that Mom and Dad met playing in, they still play in today. And my brother actually plays drums for them now. My brother's the best drummer I've ever met. My sister, one of the best vocalists I've ever met. She doesn't write, but they play a lot of cover gigs, and they cover just these classic songs so good. Dad plays the lead guitar. He can play multiple instruments. Yeah, that's been going on. I mean, I was down there 2 weeks ago running sound for one of their gigs, and just having some beer and jumping in on a few songs and hanging out at the country club. That's about it.
Tell me about Jack Ford's style. What do you look for when you go shopping, or what's the vibe?
Comfortability, and fit, because I'm a weird shaped human being.
You're incredibly skinny, Jack.
Yeah, it runs in the family a little bit of metabolism upgrade, but it has its give and its take for sure. I have to constantly be eating or fill my stomach up completely to where I can't eat for like an entire day.
How's that affect your production flow?
I actually hate stopping to eat when I'm working. Like if I'm in the zone, I love to just keep working. And when people are like stopping to get hungry and want to order food and all that, it's like always, it tends to slow me down. So I like to eat definitely way before doing any kind of like full focus activity, and just ride on that for the entire day. And snack on like fruit snacks. Shout out Fruit Snacks, Welch's. I will not bow to any sponsor.
When you get in the zone, how long do you stay in the zone?
Used to be for a lot longer, because I was learning a lot more and a lot more inspired by the learning process. And I've dabbled in so many genres over the years and kind of figured out where my niche is as a producer, and that's pop music in all forms. Hip hop, pop, R&B, rock, EDM, house. But nowadays I don't have to stay in the zone as long, because I know most of the time what I'm gonna do before I sit down in the chair. I almost have to plan out what I'm gonna do in my head, since I've seen what I've seen on the screen long enough to like know you know, where I'm gonna eventually go once I sit in the chair. But like if I am sitting down and focused without like without like 15 things to do immediately that I know I'm gonna do, it tends to just like go in different ways, and that's good for creativity. But whenever you're trying to hone in on a certain sound, it's like you pick your spots and you know what you're gonna do and you execute.
So you're at the studio. You're not sitting at your workstation in front of the computer, like coming up with the creativity. What is it you're doing while you're coming up with these ideas to do on the tracks?
I love being outside. Being outside and just nature. I don't know, just like being in the sun or even in the rain. I just love being outside. It's almost like I get my answers from out there. You know what I'm saying? And I bring them in here. But you know, earlier on, I would get ideas all the time just because I had, you know, discovering that programs like Logic Pro and Ableton, they allow you to do so many crazy things that I was just like opening up to a world of trying so many different things. But now it's almost like a meditation point. And I do, when I'm trying to build that competitive spirit, getting in the zone and, you know, try to have very competitive. I love sports and that my competitiveness isn't so much of a competition as it is a spirit of competition.
Right.
And being able to play video games just like right here in the studio, it allows me to be competitive and if I can come out with a win, then I'm definitely feeling good and jumping back over into the music world. Just switch the screen.
Yeah, we've definitely worked on some tracks, and you were like, you'd be sitting there playing video games, and I'm here in the studio, and I'm just like, Jack, I got here. I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's do this. Let's get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that's part of that process.
and Jack's sitting there just playing video games,
mm-hmm.
and then he wins, and it's like, all right, ready to go.
Yep.
I know what I'm doing, and he just goes into the track, and he's like starts moving, and I think it's quite incredible that you can take that drive from boosting yourself up in, I don't know, something that I guess, you know, like our generations and like the generations beneath us like really love video games.
Mm-hmm.
So have you been doing this? Have you been gaming? Are you a Twitcher?
Twitch from time to time. I've picked up on the DJing on Twitch just because it's fun to one of my favorite things to do besides make us music from scratch is to like DJ, basically provide the vibe for a group of people who are listening. And that's always fun on Twitch because you never know who's going to pop in and it's cool to like meet new people and talk to them and see what kind of music they like. But you know, sometimes after I get done DJing, I'll jump on Apex Legends for a little while. I've done a couple 4 or 5 hour streams on Twitch, but yeah, low view count.
So guys, if you're on Twitch, that's a shout out for Jack. Follow him as at Jack Ford on
Jack Ford World.
Jack Ford World on Twitch. Jack Ford World on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about your current projects.
So right now, my main focus is this artist goes by the name of Camryn Clark, who we featured at the show the other day, and she's just a really talented young songwriter. One of those people that makes you think, you know, I hope I have a kid that's this talented, because she, you know, she's like a little sister kind of vibe, and just hearing the lyrical flow that comes from her and melody wise is just like so in sync with songwriting today. And like I've written songs my whole life and watched how songs change and songwriting changes, and like people, you know, used to be, you know, a band in a room writing just like whatever the band was feeling, and you know, a lot of bands go unheard, and sometimes people are vibing with whatever, you know, when a band makes it, that's really, really cool. But like nowadays, it's people sitting in a room carefully writing these songs, and to hear songs that Camryn's written and compare them to songs that I've written with very talented songwriters all over the country, and know that her songs can hold up next to those so well. And that's, I mean, from the beginning, the first song I did with her was a song called Strangers, and it was just such a vibe. Like I knew right away that this project was going to be a success in any kind of way possible, just from collaboration alone. But she's always liked what I bring to the table, and I thank Adam and Kendall for introducing me, actually, because they're two of my longtime friends. Grew up down the street from Kendall and through the woods from Adam. We played t-ball together. I started making beats when I was 19. He was 17, and he just comes in the room, started rapping. We did a bunch of rap. We did a bunch of hip hop. We did a bunch of stuff. Then he found Kendall, and definitely, if you've heard Kendall's voice, you know what happened. You know what happened there. They were just inseparable, and he was writing for her and making tracks for her, and I was just kind of standing back, just like, you know, that's awesome to have that kind of musical relationship with somebody. But a few years ago, he came to me, you know, needing beats for this girl, and I was just like, you know, I'm out in LA. I'm needing some back home work. I'm needing some like homies from back home. I need some collaboration with them, because I'd been gone for 3 or 4 years at that point, and really starting to miss Nashville when I was in LA at that point. And the more I worked with Cam, the more I kind of realized that, you know, in talking with Adam and Kendall, that my location is here. You know, I loved LA, and it was an awesome journey. You know, we did a lot of cool stuff together. I mean, if I hadn't been to LA, I wouldn't have met you, and we did a lot of fun stuff, and got to meet a lot of cool people, and it definitely just like felt like it ran its nice little course. And I always knew I'd be back. I didn't expect to stay in LA as long as I did, but it was a blast. I needed my seasons back. I needed to be with my family more, and my musical family here in Nashville. Just being back a couple months, it's been just like hit the ground running, and we're already doing so much, especially thanks to you guys, Cream on Top. But got a lot of good Cam stuff coming out. Dropping a song every month or two, like almost like clockwork, and so many in the catalog and in the queue, just like ready to go. It's gonna be fun to see how the next year plays out, just because we've got a lot to finish, and it's, now that I'm back, we can all spend our creative time together and not be on Zoom.
Talk to me about the Afterlife. Because
what do you want to know?
You are probably the one person that has the most experience with the Afterlife that I've ever met. Tell me, why is that?
Few reasons. One, I grew up in a funeral home, basically. My family line for the last 5 generations has had a funeral business in many locations in West Tennessee, and so I was always hearing about death at the dinner table, whoever died, you know, and hearing about, you know, other people. You know, it's interesting for the norm to be hearing about everyone in your like community. That's, you know, when someone passes away, we get the call, and my dad would have to tend to that all the time, night or day, rain or shine, hardworking guy. But also, I have had more personal friends of mine throughout my life die in freak accidents, which has made me very aware of the afterlife, that it's very real. And I even have a scar on my hand to remind me. A good friend of mine passed away years ago. I was with him, you know, childhood, just playing around and I cut my hand open, but I'll never forget that I was with him that day. And not to mention, I've had a few near-death experiences myself. A few four-wheeler accidents. I've got some scar tissue on my neck from a fence line that I drove into. And lots of crazy stuff growing up in the country and just wanting to be a rock star and, you know, throw TVs out of windows.
How did you deal with or cope with or digest, you know, from such a young age, like being surrounded by, I would say, like bad news?
It's funny you say that. Like, it is bad news for most everybody who thinks of that situation, but from the funeral, like, business owner standpoint and like, it's our family business. It's like, you know, it's been our family's like just passion to comfort people when they're in grieving, and it takes a lot of empathy and just putting yourself out there and trying to be there for people emotionally as a job, so that they can, you know, plan the service that they want for their loved one, and we provide that in any way that they, you know, specify. And my dad's had to put on a happy face more days than he's, you know, been able to, and does a really good job at it. But it's more, we've always just been more of a celebration kind of mindset towards it, a celebration of life, and not so much. There's a few times, you know, when I was younger, my grandfather passed away. That was really unexpected, and we were all really torn up about that. Like, we had called in other family members from the extended family that were running other locations to come in and like help us grieve, because you know, my Papa Don was the Don of the funeral business, and he passed away double pneumonia at 62, just like that. And that caught us all really off guard. So my dad had to take over, and there was a lot of responsibilities, and that made things a little bit more tough when it comes to, you know, you can't, it's not like, it's not a business people want to chase after, you know, but it's always providing. Like, no, you go to the mall, that's a business, and you get stuff that you want that makes you happy. You know, when you come to the funeral home, you're definitely not getting something that you want. You know, you may be picking out a suitable arrangement and flowers and clothing. Yeah. But it's crazy.
Did you have to work in the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about, was that your first job?
Late middle school. I was in 7th or 8th grade, and my dad, you know, was always trying to get money, you know, and we got a little bit of allowance here and there, but I wanted to be more productive, and I wanted to use the money. I wanted to earn my own money so I could buy what I wanted, and not, you know.
What did you want back then?
Gear, always gear. Growing up was
music gear.
Yeah, guitars, pedals. It became computer equipment through high school, because in 9th grade, I decided my freshman year that I wanted to start recording people, like, and myself, like our little band in high school. I wanted to get us heard, and I'd heard other bands, friends of ours that were in bands at school that had been in this studio, and they sounded so cool, and we had their little CD, and we were like, we got to do that. And so I I don't know, for some reason, I just like when I listened to the things that I wanted to hear, that I liked, I understood where they were in the mix. I understood where the guitars were. I understood where the drums were, and the vocal and the background vocals and the frequencies, and just like studied that so hard even before I knew I wanted to produce. And like, whenever I got my first recording setup, I was using Ableton, which is like a looping and DJ program, and it's for mostly electronic music, but I was recording live instruments in a full band in the range window in Ableton, and just using, all I needed was a grid and like, a track layout, and I record, just put whatever I wanted in there, use the effects that Ableton had, which it had pretty good effects. I think it was Ableton Live 5.
That's before or after EQ8?
Oh, I had EQ4.
The EQ3. Was the EQ3?
Dude, EQ3 was cool, but
it was not a very good sounding equalizer.
Oh no, but EQ4, I thought EQ4 was amazing just because it was 4, and it had the graph, and a lot like Logic is now. They've come a long way, but I was using Ableton to record just like live bands, and that became my 10th, 11th grade, 12th grade year. I began recording these bands of younger kids. We would play shows and they would hear our stuff and they're like, "Where'd you guys record?" And I was like, "Well, we did it ourselves." And they'd be like, "All right, can we pay y'all like not the same studio price as other studios to like come in and just like have fun and record?" And I was like, "Always." And that is my favorite aspect of making music, and that's making music with people. A group of people. You can't make music, but you can make music. There's a time and a place to make music by yourself, but you're always going to be your worst critic. And if it's too personal, if what you're creating is too personal to you, it may not be personal enough to anyone else. And therefore you're just writing for yourself, which is good therapy for a writer, I would say. I've written so many breakup songs over the years. I started off doing like really, really pop ballad stuff in high school and just like writing these songs about these long distance relationships I was having with girls from summer camps, and just like thinking that, 1 week with somebody in the summer was enough to like know she was the one, and like write so many songs about it and perform them in the talent show and embarrass myself. But I feel like the songs were good. The lyrics could have been more mature, but I was in high school.
Do you find it easier to work on other people's music or your own music?
When I was learning, it was all about, I didn't have a lot of people to work on, but that's what it became. Like I've always had a lot of fun making stuff with myself or for myself, but with myself, by myself, to this point in the pop music industry, it's very critical, and you need people. You need a group of people to bounce these new ideas off of, and not personalize it too much so that you're separating it from everyone else, and then it's not sellable. So, but yeah, I definitely love working on. I have a lot of fun creating something. I've always tried very hard to understand an artist's vision, and it always has come to me so easily when people explain what they want, and only when the artist doesn't actually know what they want and they say what they want and I can't figure it out, because they still don't know, and that can be frustrating at times. But I still late at night, when if I'm in the headphones, or now that I have this place all to myself, I'm quite loud these days. And I don't have to worry about the apartment in LA and the noise ordinance there. I can do whatever. We've been rehearsing till like 5 a.m. for this gig, and I can't wait for everybody to see it. If you've already seen it, that's great.
So you've been working in this industry, paying your bills, doing music for, give or take, your whole like adult life, would you say? I mean, even in high school, you were charging people.
I did make side money. We all have our money managing issues, but in my younger years, whatever I was making off of artists, then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna buy something for me, and I'll figure out the money after that. I'd rather have something for me. When you're young, you're like, I'll buy something for me, and then I'll just be broke at home playing with it, and that'll be fun. That's what it was all about. Just like getting a new guitar, a new pedal, or new keyboard, like new synth, anything. Just being like, yo, I may be broke, but I have some new toys, and I'm gonna make some music with them.
What's the craziest thing you've done to make rent?
Craziest thing I've done to make rent. Well, make rent or to get my brakes fixed, or because I mean, when I needed my brakes fixed in LA, Dino came through. It's a friend of JMO's, by the way.
Canadian guy.
Shout out.
By the way, this is when you made the song that is the theme song to the Cream on Top commercial that we're shooting or shot, depending on, you might have seen it. It might be somewhere up there. But Jack produced this song, and tell us about how that got made.
So my brakes were really just at a point where the car wasn't stopping fast enough. And it was really loud. You know how brakes can get, whatever. So Dino's in town, and he's just overloading with like all these ideas for tracks, and I'm on board with it. Like, we're all vibing to the same genre. House music is a big part of what makes me tick. I definitely vibe I naturally vibe to house music almost more than any other style, respectively, even though I grew up in the South and my upbringing is more organic. But so Dino comes through and offers to fix my brakes if I, each night that he was in town, we make some new music. So night number 1 was the first track, which definitely, I think it got brushed off a little bit. It was, you probably won't wind up hearing that one unless something crazy happens. But track 2, night number 2, was 80s Night Rider vibe. And that's the track. That's the cream on top right there. It's never really had a name, but now it's definitely just
Dino beat number 2 is what it's been sitting in the hard drive as.
Right. And then night number 3, after the theme song, Cream on Top, the 80s vibe, night number 2, Dino track number 2, I was in another world while I was making that track, and I was up all night, and I just had so much fun with it. It was such a throwback vibe with the synth wave. But night number 3 was disco house, and that's the Dance Dino Dance track right there. Hopefully we're going to get some very talented vocalists like Kendall or Cam, or maybe I'll be filling up to it to drop a top line on that one, because it's definitely a jam. But Dino fixed my brakes.
Was that, like, I know some artists, you could spend a year on a track, you could spend a month on a track, or in this case, you could spend a day on a track. Do you think like that pressure, or how does that pressure or not having that pressure influence the final product or what you get out of it?
The pressure has to just be loving pressure. Like when your fans want you to come out on stage, that's loving, and that's pressure. Like when they're ready for you before it's time for you to go out there, they're demanding it. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with Cam a lot, because she's, always just very much into whatever we're working on and vibing. And I'm very lucky to be able to get that reaction out of her. But it's like a delivering, like when you feel that pressure, you feel the need to deliver what, you want to make that person proud. You want to make the people proud. And that pressure feels good.
So tell me what went into this Cream on Top Nashville showcase that we did.
Some of the songs I produced for Cam were written with Adam and Kendall. And so like that, we're all basically creating this music together. And I'm supremely honored to be able to work on Kendall's new EP, which always top-notch writing there. And when I came back from LA, they asked me to come in and make music with them for Kendall's new stuff. And the song, when I heard the songs, I was just thrilled. And all that stuff's just going to be so good, and you'll get a glimpse of it at the performance. But we could there's a million people I could call to come and play these parts, like the guitar parts, and the bass parts and the keyboard parts. We're also showcasing the tracks behind that instead of calling a bunch of Nashville studio musicians or live musicians to come in and play it live. We want to show people that we really did all make all of this together, and that we're all in support of each other, and try to inspire that in other musicians around here, so that it's not such a rat race, and it's not so divided.
Tell our listeners about or viewers about the division of the music here in Nashville.
It's very there's the union and non-union aspect, which music being in any way, shape, form, or fashion controlled by politics is just not a good way to look at the art of making music. And a lot of it is very syndicated here in town because of pastime and country and heritage. And a lot of people love Southern music here. We're in the South, and it's still very much a thing, but there are transplants, people that come in from that move here because they want to be musicians, and somebody from Connecticut or Maine come down and want to be a country singer, and just like force that country accent and do whatever it takes to sell out in Nashville. I love the mainstream industry in this town, but there's a line that I discovered that you just have to cross. You have to want to jump through hoops that a lot of people really don't. A lot of genuine creative people in the music industry don't feel like it's proper to jump through. And if the only people that will jump through that are either desperate or just thinking that that's what they got to do, and the music doesn't mean that much to them, But there's still a lot of genuine people in that aspect of the industry that I've worked with, and just because you have some kind of Nashville label on you doesn't mean that you're an enemy. But if you can't bring yourself to support other people outside of that, then it's hard to support. And a lot of people are just worried about themselves. And it's a little taste of LA here. It's grown like that over the years just because the industry has become very political as a whole in the entire world, monetarily. And
is Nashville making, Nashville is a very country, Southern music oriented place. A good portion of country, I believe, comes out of Nashville.
Yeah, for sure.
But
it almost has to.
Do you see any other trends in music here in Nashville
sure.
that are able to start, like
hip hop
Nashville?
You've been hearing these tracks with these country tracks with hip hop beats, and I think it's
Lil Nas X.
I love it. I think it's cool. I think it's finally like I'm from right outside of Memphis, and that's rap and hip hop and a lot of blues. Mm-hmm. And I can't believe it's taken this long for it to infiltrate its way into the music industry. But Nashville has held on to the past time of live musicians for so long that it's hard to imagine someone being up there with a fat beat.
You ever worked in some of the played live shows? Tell me about playing live shows here in Nashville, or like.
Man,
you used to have a cover band.
Oh yeah, no. We didn't play in Nashville. I was too young to be traveling to Nashville back then. But in high school, we had my first band was an Incubus cover band, and that's you get a little taste of that at the show as well. That's if Brandon Boyd's a huge inspiration to me, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have started writing my own lyrics and feeling confident in writing my own lyrics, because I just understood how I was understanding how he was expressing himself in lyrics, and not to mention that my voice, tonality wise, body build wise, isn't far off from him, and I kind of developed my vocal cords singing along to a lot of Incubus music. But yeah, the first band I was ever in, we played every show. It was like 25 Incubus songs in a row, man.
That's insane.
It was note for note, but it wasn't forced. It was we just loved Incubus, right? And we were trying to put together a band. So this girl I dated in high school, we broke up. She winds up dating this guy, and I didn't like him. He just had this look on his face like, yeah, you're the ex. Obviously, we don't like you anymore. But after party of prom, he's sitting there playing acoustic guitar, and he's playing an Incubus song that like is absolutely, you wouldn't know it was Incubus unless you know Incubus, and he was playing it note for note, and I lost my mind, and we immediately became like best friends and started a band, and like immediately started playing shows, and we literally toured Jackson, Tennessee, playing talent shows, and just racked up just like a line of trophies, just playing Incubus songs. It was a lot of fun, but we started writing our own stuff on the night one of my friends passed in a car accident. We were having band practice, and we were all just sitting there crying. Like, we heard about this friend of ours who had been in a car accident on the way to band practice, and when we all got there, we were all in tears, so we all just kind of sat there, didn't know what to do. And Wilkes, our guitar player, guy I was telling you about, just starts playing this really ambient, lush chord progression on the guitar, and like in tears, I'm writing lyrics about our friend who had passed, and we recorded. That was the very first song that I recorded a live situation, like a live band, and that started me recording our entire album and we wound up writing an entire album and recording bands that we played with and driving back and forth from Memphis. That's when we actually started playing Memphis and Nashville a lot. And yeah, a lot of bands.
So tell me your relationship with the club.
The club. That's a whole different side of Jack Ford. Before I moved to LA, I was always into electronic music. I was really big into deadmau5's early stuff. I got to see him play in Nashville in 2009, and that was like the birth of house for me. And just was making all this music in Nashville on the side. People were just like, yo, this isn't the right city. Like, where are you going to play this? And I'm just like, I don't care. I'll play it in here. You know what I mean? I'll play it in my car. I'll drive away from here. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go somewhere else. And that, when we got the opportunity to move to LA, I knew that DJing was going to be something that I was going to finally try to do. I thought about it for so long, but there was just no reason to DJ anything that I was listening to in Nashville. And at that point in time, I was almost detached completely from like organic music and almost doing strictly electronic music like every day. So coming to LA and being under all the pressure, and you guys were a great way for me to get out and like learn LA and like be with like people and meet new people, and you guys were always DJing gigs, and I just loved being there, and I loved watching from behind the booth. It was really the first time that I ever got to hang out behind the booth and like see the screen and see.
Yeah, so I was DJing in Los Angeles with my ex DJ partner. We had this DJ band called Lifeguards, and Jack would come and he would just watch us and he would hang out and
hype.
And then sit there and drink the bottle of whiskey, help us. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. You don't drink too much, though.
No. But that led to me getting to play a couple songs every now and then. And one of the guys that you were spinning with was always with this girl all the time. So I just kind of slipped in and took his spot and started learning the decks and figuring out just like the art of DJing. It's almost like playing a song. DJing is like playing one really long song, and every song that you play are the chords and the lyrics. Just like it's crazy to think of it as like its own like instrument, and it's also like a lot like a video game. But I just love I love when seeing people react to vibe, and I definitely love when people react to a song that they don't know, and not to a song that they do know, because then you're really just you're letting them DJ. If you're gonna play something you know everyone's gonna love all the time. But play a lot of Drake too. A lot of Drake.
Drake is definitely a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first instrument?
First instrument was piano. I was 7, started taking piano lessons. My sister had been taking piano lessons for a couple of years, and it seemed really boring. But it was always because I was hearing her practice, and it was just like, young girl practicing piano, 9 years old. You're thinking, this is boring. Like, I don't care, and this doesn't interest me. To take lessons. Now, I had a little keyboard that was about this big that I would learn Hanson songs on. Yeah. That's literally when I picked up the guitar for the first time, those were the chords that I learned. The first song that I learned the chords to was Mbop. First instrument was definitely keys. I took lessons for 6-7 years. My piano teacher was very sweet and an older lady, and she wound up retiring, and that's since then I don't read sheet music like I did then, but I still love playing the piano and the keyboard. I'm more of a keyboardist than a piano player. My sister was more of a piano player, but
what would you say is your favorite instrument?
It's very hard to say. Acoustic guitar is when I feel like I'm feeling the most feels. Electric guitar is like a different form of expression. It's like telling a story, and playing keys is like, I don't know. Playing keys is just like giving the song a hug. I don't know. They're all different feelings, but I love bass guitar too. This bad boy right here, you're gonna see it in the show. I love playing bass. I've filled in for so many bands because they've needed bass players, and I was just like, yo, I'll learn the bass, and I started picking it up. The reason I started playing bass is because our bass player quit, and he was so good, and there was no way we were going to find somebody else. And so I was like, I was always looking straight across from him in practice. So I kind of learned, like, picked up on his style, and like I knew how to play guitar, but picking up the bass and just like learning that as its own providing frequency and rhythm is a lot of fun. A lot more fun than you would think. A lot of people need bass players, and they really shouldn't, because bass is so much fun.
What's your favorite word?
Love.
Least favorite word?
Hate.
What turns you on?
Smell.
What turns you off?
Smell.
What sound or noise do you love?
All sounds, all noises.
What sound or noise do you hate?
A lot of those. A lot of those noises that I also love.
What's your favorite curse word?
This one's really hard because they're both so fun to say and they're so different. First of all, shit is a good word to say. Fuck feels so good to say.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I like being outside, and I've always weirdly thought that landscaping is very therapeutic. And it's not your real estate agent, you know, it's not your insurance claims adjuster money, but landscaping, working with your hands, you know, or professional baseball.
What profession would you not like to do?
I don't ever want to go back to the restaurant industry.
Guys, thank you for watching. Jack Ford, thank you for joining us and blessing us with your
Absolutely.
wonderful insight and knowledge into the music industry and sharing some of your stories. I know some of them were tough, some of them were good. Many good things ahead here in Nashville for you, and we look forward to hearing many of your own songs and also other artists that you're producing and working with. And we will see you in the next episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you loved this segment, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated this segment, give it a thumbs down. If you want to hear more, then subscribe. If you want to boss us around, leave a comment. And if you want to see dirty things that we wouldn't even show our mothers, follow us on Instagram. Get creamy.